John, Anik, and Kenny Florian Podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Hope the 24-hour wait was not too inconvenient. Thank you all for checking back in, albeit on a Tuesday. It is the 25th of February. The year is 2025. Happy birthday to my sister, Tracy. It is episode 539 of the Anik Florian Podcast, starring former three-time UFC title challenger Kenny Florian, still in this sort of mustache/beard phase, and we're here for it. We're fucking here for it.
It's a blend. It's a blend. I'm not sure how long I'll keep it. It's getting less creepy over time. So yeah, we'll see.
I know you don't take fashion nor image advice from me, but I do think that the mustache is a good look for you, right? I think if you scale back the beard a little bit and just lean into the mustache,
Yeah.
I don't think the UFC necessarily knew what was going on during the global pandemic when their lead play-by-play guy decided to wear a mustache on television, looking like a serial killer for 36 months. But here we are. So, yeah, we're here on a Tuesday. We had some conflicts on a Monday, so it's good to see a lot of mixed martial arts news, right? When we think about a future in which this show could be 5 days a week, 5 mornings a week, like an MMA morning show, it's because so much news breaks all the time, so much so that we had an impromptu episode on the Anik Florian Podcast YouTube channel last week to sort of get through all the UFC 314 and 315 stuff and Ilia Topuria and everything else. It's just the sport that keeps on giving.
Exactly. And sometimes it happens all at once, like it did last week, man. Just so much news, so much to break down, man. And I'm happy to do it with you.
Dana White and the UFC certainly has the ability in the middle of the night to mess with a lot of people who do this for a living if they so desire, right? A journalist goes to bed and all of this news breaks. And certainly there are people at sites like MMA Junkie that work through the night to be able to cover such news. But when we launched MMA Live on ESPN.com in 2007 and it later migrated to ESPN2, we talked about being 5 days a week. And we felt then that the sport kind of necessitated it. So here we are, once or twice a week, as live as we can be. But thanks to everybody joining us on the DraftKings YouTube channel live today and everybody else after the fact. Anik Florian Podcast is presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. So before we get into everything that happened inside the octagon, there are some reports, and it seems as though the visual of Dan Hooker's hand is such that these reports are accurate. And I'm sorry that I don't have the proper credit here off the top of the show. Perhaps my producer can chase that, but looks as though Dan Hooker, can't hunt what he can't kill, and he will not be in hunting mode coming up here March 8th at UFC 313 against Justin Gaethje. Looks like a hand injury, potentially another break for Hooker. He's had broken arms, he's had all sorts of injuries, and it looks like he's out.
I'm disappointed. This is why we can't have nice things. Yeah. I mean, listen, these guys are made for each other. We talked about this before, and this was a fight that I think a lot of fans were looking forward to just based on the fact that both these guys fight the same way and lead with their heart and their toughness. And this was one of those that was kind of destined to be a classic. And I don't think a whole lot of people expected it to go to the scorecards either. So it's unfortunate, man. I think on another level, I'm also kind of confused as how, pro MMA fighters hurt their hand to that extent where they can't continue. It's like, are we not wrapping our hands? Are we not using the proper gloves and throwing way too hard for the kind of equipment that we have? And of course, freak things happen, and we don't have exact knowledge of what the injury is. Is it a sprain? Is it a break? Is it a multiple break type of deal? But either way, it's unfortunate. I feel bad for Hooker, who obviously was looking forward to this huge opportunity against a huge star in Justin Gaethje.
I just want to follow up on that for a second, because a lot of fighters will say the best place to break your hand is in the octagon. And we see it happen a lot in competition. So, yeah, I mean, you hate to sort of speculate as to what exactly happened when this happened. But, Dan Hooker's been at this for a long time. And it's really disappointing for him because this was a major showcase, a 5-round co-main event just underneath Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. Now, there are myriad options for Justin Gaethje, and he is that guy in many respects. Like Brendan Allen, whom we will get to later in the program, posted on Instagram after losing to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, "I'm not the guy that I thought I was." Justin Gaethje has probably a few fights left in his career. Now, if he beats Dan Hooker, you can argue Justin Gaethje is back on a championship trajectory, right? But Kenny, there's so many options, right? There are going to be so many, I would think, high-profile willing parties to take on Justin Gaethje on March 8th. Now, I don't know if Arman Tsarukyan is one of them, but yeah, that fight makes a shit ton of sense, right?
Yep.
Certainly, Ilia Topuria wouldn't appear to be a guy who's going to make his second UFC lightweight appearance and begin this sort of lightweight run in 2 weeks on short notice against Justin Gaethje, but this sport has taught us stranger things have happened. Other names have been bandied about. Rafael Fiziev is trying to put himself in line for a rematch. Renato Moicano believes that he can get himself ready. Do you feel like they can preserve this fight? And do you feel like Justin Gaethje, in terms of the upside, would sort of be appetized by any of the options presented there?
Gosh, obviously some of this falls on the UFC and getting that right opponent, but I think most of it at this stage with this kind of time factor involved is going to come down to Justin Gaethje's appetite for the matchup. Does it make sense for him at this stage of his career? Does he still hope to get back to that title contention status, or is he just interested in fun, interesting fights? So I think that, because of the depth of the UFC's lightweight roster and, how many great names and great fighters there are, there's a ton of options that they have there. Obviously, there's a ton of ways they can go with this. I think Arman Tsarukyan would be a great fight. I think that's the one that stands out for me, especially given the circumstances of his last fight.
So here's the thing. You know who's ready? Diego Lopes is ready. And herein lies a part of the problem, because if you are chasing the UFC World Championship at 45 or 55, and you're an elite guy, you kind of got to be ready if you're not injured, Kenny, right? Like, I know a lot of these guys have had injuries and they have to sort of do certain things when it comes to the recovery and everything else to get their bodies ready. But you can be sure if Diego Lopes, who has a shot at the undisputed featherweight championship, was offered $800K or $1 million to come up and save the day and fight Justin Gaethje, he's ready. Is Arman Tsarukyan ready? And if Justin Gaethje wants to fight Islam Makhachev, here's an opportunity. Beat Arman Tsarukyan, who is the #1 contender, and then you wrap up a shot at the title. Then you're next. And fans would have a huge appetite for Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje. So I think for a lot of these lightweights, right, I understand why Gaethje wouldn't have an appetite to fight Renato Moicano or a rematch against Rafael Fiziev at this point. And I think you would fall in line with my sentiment there, Kenny, right? But like Arman Tsarukyan, shouldn't he fight Justin Gaethje on March 8th, with all due respect? If you're chasing the world championship, right? Like, we should be ready to go.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for him. And again, assuming he's healthy, absolutely, he should step up to the plate. And I'm not saying it was his fault with the whole injury thing like that, but it is unfortunate for the UFC's business when a fight goes down, especially one that was as big as that one between Islam and Arman. So here he has an opportunity to kind of put himself back into the good graces of the UFC, to kind of come back in there on a business level. And then for himself, you beat Justin Gaethje. That is a very big deal. That would be a huge feather in his cap. So now it just comes down to what you are alluding to is, are they ready? Are they prepared mentally, physically, spiritually at this stage of the game as a professional to be able to go in there on short notice like this?
All right, we'll see how it all plays out. Dan Hooker, I think, posting on his socials the video with the swollen hand and sort of talking about the fight in the past tense. So we'll see what happens. And at Anik Florian Pod, if you want to let us know who you would like to see Justin Gaethje fight if he stays on the card at UFC 313. All right, lot to get to. Let's get into the UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song recap. Headlines is brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. And I have to tell you, Cuervo is my tequila of choice in 2025. In 2022, maybe it wasn't, right? But there's a reason it wins all these taste tests. It's absolutely crazy, right? I remember we did one of these and some dude mentioned another tequila and he said it was so bad, he'll be able to tell what it is right away. And sure enough, he's like, oh yeah, there it is. Absolutely terrible. He's like, you drink that piss? I was like, no, maybe in 2021 I did, though. All right, let's get into headlines. UFC Fight Night, Song Yadong over Henry Cejudo by technical decision. It goes to the scorecards after 15 minutes. Henry Cejudo was unable to see out of, I believe, that left eye, Kenny, and a lot to unpack. You're the fighter. I'll let you unpack it.
Oh, gosh. Well, unfortunate. However, this was a fight that to me seemed like was consistently with Yadong in the driver's seat. I think that he was in control of this fight. He was looking very, very good. Unfortunately for Henry, he wasn't able to be a double threat here. I think that Henry was looking for takedowns. To me, it was kind of surprising that he was kind of stopping his motion on some of those takedowns, which allowed Yadong to really kind of, thwart a lot of those takedown attempts. So Henry was kind of stopping on those takedowns. He was grabbing the leg and then not really creating any motion with them. However, here was a good sign for Henry. The fact that he was motivated. This was, to me, the guy, with the eye of the tiger. Henry Cejudo seemed like he was ready for a scrap. He did not cower at any point during that fight, even when he was taking a lot of damage. He was firing back with huge shots. Yadong deserves a lot of credit for eating a lot of those shots. So it was a really good fight and competitive fight. But to me, Song Yadong was in the driver's seat the whole time prior to that eye gouge.
Sorry, guys. Somehow my mic was muted there. Ken Flo, Jason Herzog is as good as any referee in the business, right?
Yeah.
There might be referees as good. I don't believe consistently there is anybody better, but much is being made of the fact that he did not take a point. There were fouls prior, and there are a lot of people talking about eye pokes and what penalties should happen and to make it more dissuasive for fighters. Jim Miller, Michael Bisping chiming in. So what do you make of the fact that the playing field was not leveled, so to speak, by Jason Herzog, one of the best in the business, and maybe what can be done to really try to penalize fighters in your mind for eye pokes moving forward?
Yeah, and I kind of purposely buried the lead. I wanted to talk about the fight itself, but this is the biggest part of this fight, right? So I think that it's hard because you can't predict exactly how bad these eye pokes are. The only information you can get is from the fighter and whether they can see or not, or whether it's going to come back or not. Sometimes you can't see for the first 10 seconds and then you're good after that. Sometimes it's a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And, for the referee, Jason Herzog in this example, he doesn't know all of that stuff. And, you need a doctor to come in. You need the fighter to kind of give you the right information. Now, when Henry went back to the corner after that, he said he could not see. At that point, the fight was over. Like there's nothing you could do. Now, what could Jason do prior to that? If you're seeing a guy, and Henry kind of had his hand open as well, he kind of fights like that. There either needs to be something straight away from the ref in knowing these fighters, going backstage when he meets with these guys before the fight and saying, hey, you guys have a tendency of keeping your hands open. If I see one eye gouge or if I see one eye poke or whatever it is, I'm taking a point away. So just be aware of that, something like that. So this is a tough one, man, because I do think there's a little bit of a gray area in there. And traditionally, you kind of have to allow for a foul, right? And it not being intentional or unintentional. But the fact that this was unintentional and had an impact on the fight, gosh, when it's that bad and that egregious, then maybe you have to take a point away.
Jim Miller posted a video on social media that was repurposed by Verdict MMA, I believe, and he was wearing a UFC glove. He's been in that octagon, I think, more than anybody, right? Maybe not in terms of overall accruage of time and hours, right? But it's not the gloves. There have to be preventative measures taken, right, to give our referees and our judges and our fighters as many tools as possible, right? So, yeah, I mean, we got to take more preventative measures in terms of making the penalties more severe. I'd encourage everybody to check out Jim Miller's video. I do believe a little bit too much is being made of, Herzog in this situation. I understand some talking heads suggesting that maybe this was indefensible by Jason. I just think that the referees need more tools, right, to be able to have the conviction to change the landscape of the fight by taking points away, right? Like, I think it's sort of like parenting, right? It's like, what about raising your voice? Like, do you raise your voice, right? Like, I'm not a yeller, right? But, when I cuss, like, that definitely like centers my kids, and that could be a parenting tool if you don't like to raise your voice. I don't know what you do, Kenny, like, but the first warning, every time I see Mark Ratner, he's like, first warning's in the back, so you can imagine that he thought that a point should have been taken. I don't know. It's disappointing. You got to take Cejudo at his word, Ken Flo, right? I mean,
no, for sure. And I think that for referees, I think they would be lying to you if they said that if they had the option of not being noticeable at all, as opposed to having an impact on the fight itself, they would always choose to be invisible throughout that fight.
Yeah.
And no referee wants to have some kind of decision out there that impacts this fight on that level by taking a point away or DQing a fighter or whatever it is. So I think there's that initial hesitation and lean towards that bias to begin with. And maybe you disagree with me, but I think that alone is kind of an impediment to like where we're trying to go with the sport, I think.
Couldn't agree with you more. And it's a disappointing result because Song Yadong does not get sort of spun forward with a win. And even though both fighters have an appetite for a rematch, before I ask Ken Flo, who did see some merit in this fight, certainly his thoughts on a rematch, I want to get to some sound from Dana White. Here's what Dana said at the post-fight press conference about a rematch.
Thinking that they should run that one back? Or?
Not at all.
Not at all? Okay.
Not even a little bit.
Why is that?
I just don't want to see it again. Okay. Do you?
No, I thought it was a good fight leading up. You
want to see it again? We should probably do it in a couple months.
Run that one back? Or?
Not at all.
Not at all? Okay.
Not even a little bit.
Why is that?
It was funny, though. It's funny.
There's that Boston humor, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm good too, Kenny. I mean, it was a fine fight. I'm fine, though.
I don't need to see. Listen, it was a good fight, but I have to agree with Danny here. I don't need to see it again. Why? And this is the problem when fights end in this manner, is that it doesn't hold back one fighter. It kind of prevents two fighters from advancing in this regard. So, yeah, I think it's tough to see Henry, maybe have to end his career on this note. If that's where he's going to go, or if he's going to come back, then he gets another opportunity to kind of redeem himself and get a win. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We can't just have a rematch every time there's some kind of controversial issue. Yeah. And also for me, Song Yadong was in complete control. I think he was winning the rounds, and it seemed like it was actually going to get worse for Henry. Unfortunately, I poke or not.
Right. And I know there are a lot of people out there sitting on Song Yadong tickets, Matty bets in rounds 4 and 5. That was very disappointed that fight did not continue. You got to give Cejudo the benefit of the doubt, to be sure. Now, I have had private communication with fighters who have been on the wrong side of some very severe eye pokes. I remember Daniel Cormier with an eye patch on, just writhing in pain the next day. Bilal Muhammad, right, moaning, right, as if he's giving birth. I mean, that's a natural reaction to a nasty, nasty eye poke that, in my opinion, right, just one talking head with a stupid fucking opinion, that one was more severe than this one. But Henry can't see, and he's not going to jeopardize fighting high-level mixed martial arts fight against a knockout artist, right, over 10 minutes. If he can't see out of that eye. So you can't sort of knock Henry in all of this, even if you don't want to see a rematch. So
absolutely agree with you. Henry made the right decision here. This sport is too nasty. Song Yadong is too dangerous for you to go out there with one working eye. You just can't. He made the right choice, for his own health and safety.
All right. Well, Joe Rogan, if you're listening, text Dana about severe penalties for eye pokes, and we'll see if we can affect change. Kenny, worst eye poke you've ever been on the wrong end of? Do you recall?
I've been pretty damn lucky. I think the worst was just getting. My nose was always in the way. I think blood in the eye was the worst. So that was like someone just put a red sheet over my eye. I remember when I fought Diego Sanchez, I had that. When I fought Sean Shirk, his own blood was just blinding me in the eye, and I could not. Anytime I went to smudge it, it just kind of made it worse and was just there. So, but I've never actually taken an eye poke that is affecting my eye, thankfully. But those can be nasty, man.
Well, in your era, I don't know that people were leading with their fingernails as much as they are in this day and age, but I could be wrong. All right, let's get to the co-main event if we could. Ray Longo coming up here in 8 minutes. We will also get you picks and a preview for UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev, which beckons this Saturday night. I got to call the Apex this weekend, Ken Flo. We got a little fight night. All right, so the good news, if you're Anthony Fluffy Hernandez on this extended winning streak and wondering when a title fight is going to materialize, that the UFC now has champions in Dricus du Plessis and Bilal Muhammad and Merab Dvalishvili that are going to put their titles on the line regularly. And Diego Lopes, I think, would also qualify if he can get that gold. So what do you make of Fluffy, man? I love this guy. Unanimous decision winner. The winning ways continue. He gets past Brendan Allen, and Anthony Hernandez remains right on the cusp. You got to think it's either a main event or a pay-per-view eliminator for him coming up next.
One of the things that's most difficult for me in picking fights or, breaking down fights sometimes is what kind of situation the fighter is going to show up in. Like, what's his motivation? What's his passion? What is he going to fight like? Anthony Hernandez, I don't need to ask any questions. I know exactly what he's going to do out there. I know exactly how he's going to show up. I know exactly the consistency of how he shows up. It's easy to predict. And because of that, he is such a tough out for anybody in that division. His style, he is relentless. He's right on top of you. He's going to come back. He's going to outposition you. He's never going to quit. And I think it was those things that Brendan Allen he just wasn't up to par. He showed some great execution of skill, and I think he performed really, really well. But when it comes down to being that dog, it's going to be really hard to outdog someone like Hernandez.
Beautifully laid out as usual. I sort of feel like with everything Anthony Hernandez was dealing with that this might be harder than any fight that he ever has to be in. He was on antibiotics, right? He was just absolutely brutal. I think He was the last guy to weigh in, right? But he just is cut from that cloth, as you just outlined. So as you look at this fight and as you spin it forward, right, it's going to be one more elite guy, I would think, for Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Can he get that fight with like a Caio Borralho next? Will it be like an Israel Adesanya? How do you handicap Fluffy against like Dricus du Plessis and the other elites in this division? Because at this point in time, all the man needs, as far as I'm concerned, is an opportunity. And when you combine the skills with the dog on any given Saturday night, he's got a shot.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that he is one of the best grapplers, no question, in that division. Styles make fights, as they say. And I think that the fight that probably would be most difficult for him, perhaps is the case for everybody in that division, is Khamzat Chimaev, just because they have a very similar style. And I think Khamzat just has that much better takedown game and ground and pound. But Hernandez is right there, man, and definitely kind of emulates more of that Dagestani kind of Russian Caucasus, style. And yeah, it's a style that very few people can execute because they don't have the conditioning to do it. But I think he could definitely be a top 5 guy. I mean, if I'm Sean Strickland or Imavov, I'm saying no to someone like Anthony Hernandez. Like, I don't think you want to face a guy like that, who is just a menace when it comes to ground fighting and clinch fighting.
I think maybe you do a main event, Anthony Hernandez, Robert Whittaker, as Cody beautifully lays out the rankings for us there. I think that fight maybe makes some sense. Ken Flo, any appetite for Fluffy versus the Reaper or no?
That would be a great fight. I think that would be a great fight. I'm not sure Robert Whittaker, well, maybe he wants to redeem himself because he fought someone similar in Khamzat Chimaev, but right. Yeah, I mean, that would be huge. You beat someone like Robert Whittaker, then again, you're that much closer to a title shot. Probably after that one, maybe you get the next shot. So that division is very deep, but that's one that will fast track you to that belt. I think
we got like Vettori and Dolidze coming up in a rematch main event, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Caio Borralho, as we mentioned. I just really feel like when you look at these divisions and their champions, right, with Alexandre Pantoja and Merab and potentially a young Diego Lopes, not that Volk wouldn't win the belt and potentially turn it around 3 months later, but you have a lot of champions that are 2.5 to 3 times a year type guys. Like I was with Merab 10 days ago. That dude wants to fight. Bilal can't even exist in his own skin if he doesn't have a fight on the books. Right. And if you're Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, Dricus du Plessis is probably going to defend the title against Khamzat Chimaev International Fight Week at the latest, because that's the type of guy he is too. So I think that's the good news for Hernandez as you sit here with this extended winning streak, thinking like, how am I going to get the next big fight? Congrats to him on powering through the illness and everything else. Really good guy, Anthony fucking Hernandez. Dude, how about Rob Font, man? I don't know if it's like career resurgence. I mean, certainly it's a little bit of a 2.0 thing under Firas Zahabi and training in Montreal and injecting new life into his career, but accepting this fight against Jean Matsumoto, in which he's a betting underdog instead of being a 2.5 to 1 favorite against Dominic Cruz, performing like that, Woburn's finest, baby. Had to feel good to be a Bostonian watching Rob Font do that this weekend.
And it's great to see a guy who was willing to change his approach and to go outside of maybe his comfort level and space and seek out other people that can maybe take him to where he wants to go and get some feedback from someone that maybe doesn't know him so well. And I know it helped me a tremendous amount. And when you're talking about Firas Zahabi, I think one of his best assets as a coach is his ability to look at what you have and then modify and improve. I think that's what makes him so special. But Firas is an extremely intelligent guy who's been around this sport for a long time and has obviously aided Rob Font in his efforts. But Rob just looks much cleaner and much smarter as a fighter. And I love to see it because now it gives him the ability to add that much more longevity to his career.
So Firas Zahabi cornered you against Jose Aldo in 2011. And now 14 years later, he's going to corner his younger brother, Eamon, against Jose Aldo. That's got to be pretty special for all you guys, you know?
Absolutely. And one other little tidbit, Eamon Zahabi was at my house in Massachusetts helping me prepare for Jose Aldo. He was one of my main training partners at the time as well, you know, probably in his, early to mid-20s at the time. Helping me out. So it's really cool. I saw that news today and I wanted to give him a call immediately. Be like, how funny is the world?
Dude, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, congrats to Eamon and Firas, and we look forward to that fight with Jose Aldo, I believe, in Montreal at UFC 315. And sort of just putting a bow on the middleweights, we got Michel Pereira versus Abus Magomedov. I'm telling you, Abus Magomedov is the dark horse in that division. That's April 26th. Vittori Delidze, a headliner, March 15th. Joe Pyfer. You could beat Joe Pyfer. He's taking on Kelvin Gastelum March 29th. So that's some good connective tissue in the middleweight division. Congrats to Rob Font on the bonus and the split decision win. We will be getting to Ray Longo here shortly, but how about Lord Jean Silva? He of the Fighting Nerds fame, getting it done against Melsik Bagdasaryan by TKO. Here comes the Lord. Good Lord, like there's so many calls when John Silva knocks a dude out, and the big fights are going to be coming for this guy, Kenflo. What'd you make of one of your favorite guys on the roster right now, Lord Jean Silva?
Congratulations, Milord. Yeah, listen, it was amazing. This guy, I mean, it's when you see a guy with this kind of skill and this comfort level in the UFC, and it's not like he's got 10 fights in the UFC at this stage. He hasn't been around that long, but he fights like such a veteran. He's such a cool customer, and his athletic traits is what makes him special. His ability to see the game and slow things down for himself and pick you apart bit by bit. He's an absolute technician, but he's a killer as well. Sometimes you see guys that are technicians, but they don't throw a whole lot of volume or maybe don't throw a whole lot of variety and maybe they're not versatile. That is not the case with Jean Silva. This guy is special, John. His ability to land shots at the right time. It reminds me of Conor McGregor in his prime. Just how he can find your chin and the artistry that he shows in getting there. He's not just winging punches with his eyes looking down at the canvas. He knows exactly what he's doing. And it's just beautiful to watch. This guy is someone to watch, and he may very well be a champion in this sport in the near future. I think it's the ceiling's that high, man.
Yeah, I think Jean Lord Silva won the weekend. I was wondering if I should change my name to, I mean, I'm not Lord, right? But Jean. Instead of John, I could be Jean. I actually might, when I say my name for the first time on television this weekend, say, alongside Dominic Cruz, I'm Jean Anik. Two-man booth, by the way, for the first time in 3 or 4 years this weekend.
Nice. Who you got? Who's with you?
Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, Dom.
Yeah.
Nice.
First time being on the sticks for Cruzy as a retired UFC athlete. All right, back to the MMA discourse and a potential appearance by Ray Longo in 60 seconds. But is anybody out there scoring big in the NBA this season? You are, with all the new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From Monster Jams to Dish in the Rock to Eat in the Glass, get behind your favorite players and all the proposition bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. I'm getting in there every night. And here's something special for first-timers out there. If you are new to the game, new DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack, not now, but right now at DraftKings Sportsbook, where every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. All right, a few other things I would like to get into if I could. And we will certainly get Ray Longo's thoughts. We'll let him program direct his segment because he'll probably be offended if I don't ask him. Oh, you have Ray. All right, well, at least now he heard that I wasn't maybe saying super nice things before he came on. Let's get to the Ray Longo minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Wow.
Well, one of your Minutemen is like harassing me, so.
Good. That means you should be harassed.
Well, you know, I sit here, I'm almost like intimidated to ask you about like Ilia Topuria instead of like Song Yadong and Henry Cejudo, because sometimes you get upset with me, you know, if I don't, you know, if my questions are run on or if I don't ask the right questions. So we figured we would sort of let you lead today, you know, unless you wanted to go Phumi Nkuta, and then I'd have to interrupt.
Oh, Phumi Nkuta. Come on. You got to give it up to Phumi.
We will, but that's not the first.
What do you want to do? You do the lead. What do you want to talk about?
All right. So I would like to talk about Ilia Topuria if I could, because as Kenny and I have increasingly wrapped our head around his decision to move up to lightweight seemingly with finality, I think in a lot of respects it makes sense, right? When you weigh the danger of the Diego Lopes fight potentially, or the upside of an Alexander Volkanovski rematch, you beat the guy by knockout, all the big fights that potentially await him at 55, we understand why he is making this move right now, even if a championship opportunity is not guaranteed. So I just want to get your thoughts on Topuria moving up to 55 without a title shot being guaranteed.
Well, listen, I think with Topuria, it's just a matter of fact, he can't make the weight anymore, and he feels comfortable at 55. He's not ducking anybody. He's not, you know,
I don't think that's what it is. Any
chance? What was that?
Can you put that phone on vibrate? Do you mind?
Yeah, I have it on silent.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. I mean, Marab told me that months ago. He said Ilia's not making the weight anymore. I mean, that's what he told me. So I got to go by his word. And yeah, I think that's the end of the story. I think people are going to start to read into it and come up with whatever narrative they want. But, you know, it's like Aljo. Aljo did not want to make that 35, man. He just didn't want to do it anymore.
So at least you're providing some like legitimate like background, right? Which actually is valuable, right? Marab's comments about the weight, because
months
for
ago,
those of us that see Ilia though, right, who's 5'6", right? I can make 25 and I'm 5'9" with a 72-inch wingspan, right? Like I maybe don't have like a huge lower half, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that these are stare death in the face type weight cuts. Ken Flo did it twice, and Kenny's built in some respects like a Major League Baseball catcher. He's an absolute beast down, you know, like, so I can't buy that in totality with respect.
Wait, first off, maybe a second baseman. He's not built like a catcher. He looks
right
like
now, my head looks.
No, but Kenny's
he looks like Thurman Munson.
Kenny fought 200 pounds, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Kenny, what do you have for us on that?
I'll say this. I think it's most likely more. I would say this. If he had another one or two guys like Max Holloway and Volkanovski at 145. I think he's staying at 145 pounds. I think that he feels that he has nothing to gain by staying at 145. He already beat the two most difficult and most accomplished names in the sport. So now it's like, what else do I have to do? Money is a great motivator. And if there's more money fights for him down there, then I think he would stay. I don't think there's going to be more money against Diego Lopes, and I think there's just as much risk perhaps as a Volkanovski and a Max Holloway. So he says, wait a sec, if I go up to 155 and lose against an OG or one of the greatest in that division, I lose nothing and I can always go back to 145. But I want to get another couple fights and I want to be a belt holder at 155 and then I'm out. And I think it's just, he's trying to find the fastest track to being an absolute legend in this sport. That's what I think is going on.
And Kenny not only beat him, he beat the crap out of him.
He beat the crap out of him. So it's like,
so,
your performance isn't going to be better than a second round knockout against Holloway. No one has ever knocked out Holloway.
And this I have no idea of, but I think the guy's financially well off. You know, he doesn't live in America where everything is money, 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 money. You know, you got to get more money, more money, more money. You know, we got to, you know what I'm saying? So why put his body through that? Maybe he's looking at the long game. You know what I mean? What you think making weight, whether you could do it or not, you think it's good for you? You ever see these guys? I don't give a fuck if a guy can make 115. Sure, I'm sure he could starve himself.
Talk to me, I'll tell you about
it. Kevin James said he fasted for 40 days. You know, everybody could do what they want. If you want longevity, you have to do it the right way. So you'd have to really ask him, but that's my take on it. I think, you know,
I
don't think he's motivated by the dollar like everybody else is. And I think look at him. It looks like a movie star. He's got a great family. I mean, that's the way it appears. Everybody's got, you know, trouble behind the scenes, I guess. But, you know, he looks right now to me like he's having a great time. And, why do that if you don't need to? I mean, there's more to life than just making weight, man. You know what I mean? Like, you got to put it in perspective. You know how many guys, you know, pay the price or have diabetes or whatever disease is going to come from what they did to their bodies for 10 years? You know, so you got to be smart too.
And certainly he believes in himself to such an extent that he is not at all intimidated by facing the likes of Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira or Islam Makhachev. No, Ray, I think you put it all really well. And Jerry Seinfeld said recently that in the 1970s, nobody cared how much money you made. It was almost like, who's got the coolest job? You know, like it really wasn't. And you're so right in our country, Ray. Like it is all about money, money, money. And I do think Ilia Topuria likes red wine, likes to party, wants to enjoy his life. I agree with that. And I'm glad you led with that. I just was sort of trying to make the point, maybe in a roundabout way, that even if Ilia Topuria would be the betting favorite against Diego Lopes and maybe the betting underdog against Charles Oliveira, there are similarities for him in fighting Diego Lopes and Charles Oliveira, right? There are advantages maybe at 45 and advantages at 55 that wouldn't be there in the opposite weight class, and there's risk in both of those fights. So I'm just taking that as one fight, right? He loses to Diego Lopes, then what do, right? Like, so he can move up to 55, get Charles, Dustin, or Islam, lose to any of them and not really lose too much. And if it's competitive, you know, I don't know. I just think that at first I was like, man, you know, I'd like to see him fight Movsar Evloev. And Ilya's like, John, can we talk for a second, bro?
I mean, first off, you got to ask him, but I don't think he's afraid to fight anybody. That guy's a gangster. You could see the way he handles himself.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's afraid to fight Movsar.
Who are these people? Who had the money in the 70s?
Yeah. So, all right. So
I that suck? Yeah.
I just wanted to get some Topuria stuff out there because I think it is particularly newsworthy.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. Sorry.
So Aljo is training extensively with Alexander Volkanovski as Volk gets ready for the multiple times mentioned Diego Lopes. That is UFC 314, Raymond. Volkanovski versus Lopes. Right now, Volk minus 155, the betting favorite. Any thoughts on that? And Aljo being the right-hand man of the Volk.
I'll tell you, Cody sent me some last night. I was totally unaware of the chirping that was going back and forth. But I don't know. I like Diego, man. Give him the title shot. I don't know. But I think Aljo, you got to remember, Aljo's a very cerebral, kind of practical guy. I think he's saying, you know, Mozart beat him. So if it's a meritocracy, you know, he should get the fight. I don't think he meant anything other than that by what I read, but it turned into like a big deal. I hope those guys can work it out. I think he's lined up a street fight with Jason House now. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I tell you, it's kind of entertaining. But No, I think Diego's been on a rip or a raw, whatever the hell. He's been on a roll. And, I got no problem with that. I think it's a good fight.
Cody just texted me and Kenny, Dan Hooker, speaking about his hand injury. Sparring last night, just caught one of the boys on the top of the dome with my knuckle. I obviously still would fight. Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? Like if Hooker could pass the medical, the guy leads the league in willingness to fight with broken bones, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's just, you just don't want to make it so that you're all having this nasty multiple time, screws and everything else, right? But he would fight. But there's your update, Ken Flo.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I assume it had to have been with with an MMA glove or something without a whole lot of padding or without a wrap for that to happen. You still, even though you're hitting the top of the head, I would think you got to be throwing pretty hard without a wrap on to still hurt your knuckle there, right? Right, Ray? Am I crazy?
I've seen guys in a boxing glove with wraps on still do it if they hit it the right way and they're throwing hard. They got to throw hard though.
Yeah,
it's got to I think I did that with Iaquinta years ago. Just had to sit down on a right hand, and he went in and sparred. He just hit the same thing, hit a guy on the top, and he broke his hand. So, but he threw hard. I mean, that was hard sparring. It wasn't. I don't. That's not going to technically happen in like flow sparring, right, or like kind of play sparring. But I think when you're throwing hard, you hit it the right way, and the guy's got a hard head. It's always a problem.
All right, very quickly, because we have a lot of topics we want to get to with the wildly popular Raymond Peter Longo. We asked our viewers and listeners as to who they think is going to win this fight between Volkanovski and Diego Lopes, and it kind of dovetails with the betting line. 62% of people like Volkanovski. Do you guys have any early lean or thoughts? I know your guy Aljo's training with Volk. I know you said you like Diego Lopes, Ray, but any early lean as to who you think emerges out of that one?
I think that's going to be a really good fight. I mean, Volk's kind of, he hasn't been on a winning streak, and the other guy has. I think the other guy's got the momentum. Volk seems like just he's definitely a great dude, and he's, I don't know. That's a tougher fight than I think people think, only because of the way, Volk's getting up there now, and, I don't know where his head's at, but, I will say this, like, again, I always say this only just to prove a point, but if it was 5 years ago, I think Volkanovski would win the fight. You know what I mean? Like when Volk was Volk, that would have been a tough fight for Diego. Who knows? Everybody gets older, everybody's got issues going on, but Volkanovski 100% could still fight. This kid seems like he's on a roll. I'm dying. I'd like to see it. I want to see the fight.
Kenny, only thing I'll say is in terms of the preparation, both guys will go to the end of the earth to do everything in their power to be ready for April 12th. Your thoughts on the featherweight title fight real quick, if you would.
I definitely believe that. I think a lot of it comes down to what kind of Volkanovski we're going to see. Is this a Volkanovski in decline? It's possible. He's fought some pretty damn good fighters.
Right.
There's no shame in losing to Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. However, what kind of effect did those fights have on him, his durability, his chin, etc.? Because Diego Lopes is going to look for that chin and will most likely land at some point. He's tall, he's lanky, he's big for the division. He's no slouch on the ground. He's a finisher as well. He's accrued a lot of experience now in some big fights in the UFC. So it's really tough at this point. Without doing tape study, I might be leaning towards Diego Lopes at this point. But I don't know. This is a close one.
Yeah, I tell you, I'll give you some. I mean, like, Volk can definitely still fight. I mean, I talked to Aljo, and Aljo's been training with him, and he said the first time they sparred, he tried to imitate like Diego Lopes, and after like a minute, he's like, "Fuck this, man! I gotta go back." I think he got smashed a couple of times. He's like, "I'm going back to the way I like to spar." Wow. And you see that I used to put guys in the gym. Can you go southpaw? And it lasts for like a minute. Like, what am I getting killed? Like, so it was funny when he said that to me. But so Volk's definitely training hard. He's doing the right thing. Let's see, man. We've seen a lot of weird stuff in this sport, but I love both guys. I've made the best man win, and I want to see the fight. I'm excited for it.
And I like the time away for Volkanovski. I like the fact that he's taken some time to really recover here.
Well, I think
could
what
have
happens,
everybody with
though,
us.
John, let me say one thing. I think what
Yeah.
happens, though, is like he was a company man. I think you see it even without Asanya. They were very technically highly skilled guys. But, you could take, once you hit that point where you just overdo it, you have to take time off. But it seems like it might not be enough. It just might not be enough. I think you see it with Israel. Guy's a great fighter, but he's struggling. And I think that's struggling because he fought, every couple of months or whatever he was doing at the time. I think he just got burnt out, and that could be physically and mentally. And some of that stuff is hard to come back from.
Appreciate everybody being with us live today on YouTube for the Anik and Florian podcast. This is the Ray Longo Minute, right in the heart of the show as usual. As we update the story on UFC 313, our producer Code Blue says Justin Gaethje, as of 10 minutes ago on Snapchat, said he is waiting for a new opponent. And Arman Tsarukyan is one name that we talked about, Ray, off the top of the show, and I feel like we as fans were told when he was unable to make the walk against Islam Makhachev and didn't weigh in that he might just need a couple weeks and then be ready to go. If you're chasing a world championship, right, shouldn't Arman Tsarukyan accept this fight if offered on March 8th, right? I mean, you think Sean Brady is prepared optimally for Leon Edwards on March 22nd? These guys on the cusp of a world title, I don't want them to beat me up when they see me, but like, if you're chasing a world championship and you're on the cusp, if that's really what you're about, you got to take your opportunity. I mean, Bilal Muhammad could barely walk going in the Gilbert Burns fight. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, if that's your goal. Like, again, Tsarukyan obviously is a guy with money, and when you're not desperate, you're not going to do anything kind of desperate, I guess. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. He's not doing himself any favors by not taking the fight. If you're asking me, 1,000,000% he should take that fight. He 100% should take the fight, especially based on what happened last time. I think he's got to go back in there and prove himself. But you got to remember, even as a promoter, who do you want? You want a guy that's desperate for money, or you want a guy that's, no, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I'm not motivated.
You want a guy,
extreme.
yes. Yeah, you're on fire today. I agree.
You know what I'm saying, man? I'm just saying, from me being around and watching the way different people interact, some guys aren't going to budge. It doesn't, like, 500 grand might be good to one guy, and another guy might go, what? Like 500 grand? You want me to kill myself for 500? It's all, perception is reality. It's all perspective.
Kenny, we have a lot of UFC champions that are chasing all-time greatness. When you hear Alexandre Pantoja, he talks of Demetrius Johnson. Bilal Muhammad, as people laugh in his face, has put this unbelievable historic winning streak together, invokes the name George St. Pierre, Merab Dvalishvili, right? I don't know, man. I think as a promoter, Ray and Kenny, it's like you want to know that the guys who you're belting in there want to turn that thing around and prove themselves against Shavkat Rakhmonov or the next best guy who's available. And I think, and again, some of this is just speculation, but like, is Arman Tsarukyan, if given this opportunity, right, like going to be about that and be constantly in competition? I hope so, because skill for skill, he's as good as any lightweight in the world,
Yeah, and I'll add this. I think from a fighter's perspective also, I think talk about perception, Ray. The idea that you are optimally trained for an event also means something. And for some guys, if they feel like, I always do a 6-week camp. This is a championship fight. When I don't do a 6-week camp, I can't do a hard 5 rounds. I got to say no to this. So, like some people are very particular about that. And I definitely think there's an economic concern here as well. That I think that's huge. But for some guys also, that mental aspect of going, if I don't feel like I am 100% prepared, I'm not going to go in there. So, and it depends on what stage they are in their career. If they're trying to be a better wrestler, a better striker, or, prove their conditioning, and they only have 3 weeks to do it.
I tell you, Kenny, 1,000,000% dead on. Like, if I didn't torture Sarah, he wouldn't feel good. Right. Even Weidman, when Weidman started getting injured, we got done with one training session. Like, his wife goes, "How come you don't have him doing the I used to make him do like the bungee cords to some tie, but whatever." He can't do it. The guy was over in the corner crying. I go, "What do you want me to do?" He's injured. But these guys need to be pushed. Kenny, you're 1,000,000% on that. My point only is, like, all the guys we're bringing up Topuria, Zarukian. It's just a common denominator. They seem to be well off. They're not desperate. That's all I was saying. Like, you got to give me a guy who's not like that, and then we could take it to a different level.
All right, well, let's talk about Justin Gaethje, who seemingly says he's waiting for an opponent. And historically, Justin and Trevor Whitman would be calculated about this and have been, right? So I don't know if he would accept a fight, right? Let's take Renato Moicano, right? He just lost about as unspectacularly as you could to Islam Makhachev. With respect to Renato Money Moicano, I don't see Kenny and Ray much upside to that fight for Justin Gaethje. So I would imagine if that's the name being presented with respect, he's not accepting that fight, right? Arman Tsarukyan is a very difficult fight, but how about Justin Gaethje, right? Is he still desperate chasing the world title? I mean, his bankroll is outstanding, Ray, right? So how would you...
Yeah, Gaethje's a fucking mad hatter, though. I don't think he's going to turn down any fight. I think he goes in there to fight. He loves the competition. I think mentally he's a different cat because he came from a totally different background. So I think he's, you know, these are guys that seem like they were brought up kind of financially well off. You know what I mean? So Gaethje, we've seen him. I mean, and I don't know if there's anything calculated. I remember Trevor saying, like when he first came in before one fight, he goes, "This guy's just going to throw." Like he's like, there might not even be a game plan. You know, I mean, that's I might be paraphrasing, or that's the way I interpret it, and that's who he is. That Gaethje's crazy. I mean, he's a company guy. I don't think he's going to turn down any fight.
I know that he has said recently, Justin Gaethje has, that Islam Makhachev is sort of the dream fight for him, and certainly that's the belt holder. I just think it's very interesting at the highest levels of the game, right, in terms of fights like this and how relatively ready an athlete is, right? Arman Tsarukyan certainly not as desperate as, say, Bilal Muhammad or Merab Dvalishvili, who really aren't even fighting for money. They're fighting for mixed martial arts legacy. And
1,000,000%. Merab couldn't care. You've seen it. Yeah, he couldn't care. I told you that guy will go back to construction tomorrow. I don't think he'll give a shit.
Dude, I honestly got like teary-eyed seeing him get that ovation in Sydney. It was unbelievable, right? It was deafening for Diego Lopes. It was honestly like I need to see an ear doctor after Merab came out. It was unbelievable to just see him get showered with that love and see how that felt for him. Really cool.
And John, I tell you what I love about it most is when Aljo was the champ, he kind of was in the backgrounds, but as soon as Aljo, when he lost and moved up, he was on fire, man. You could see this guy. So I just think about that type of character. He could have did this 6 years ago, but I think out of respect for Aljo, he laid back, and I love the way it worked out. I think it just worked out fantastic. I'm happy for him, and his trajectory, I think, is still skyrocketing. You know what I mean? So power to him, and I'm glad you got to witness that because, he's a really cool dude.
Hey, did you guys see the little spark plug? My favorite fighter, Ricky Simone, this weekend, huh?
Woo.
Oh man, spoiled my decision.
Repping the Pacific Northwest. I always think of Merab and Ricky Simone, and if that fight would ever come around again, you never know. You never know. Everybody's sleeping on fucking Ricky Simone.
I did.
You know,
I'll tell you, 2 unbelievable knockouts. Hook cross. That's it. Nothing's fancy, Kenny. No fancy footwork. Right down the middle, man. Holy shit.
How good is Silva, huh?
Oh, Silva, man. He's got to have bricks in his hands. Like
the other
guy's
thing
a kickboxer. He's used to getting hit. He got flattened.
Bagassarian is a very good striker. We're talking about a world-class striker. And John Silva's just clowning him. Like he's playing. I mean, unbelievable. Though even the finish at the end, it was like a triple elbow to the ribs and then a pointed downward elbow to the head. And he did it. It looked like he did it in like a second. It was so fast and malicious. It was nasty.
Kenny, I love I love what you're saying. I mean, the other guy goes down and he kind of looks like the ref, like, what the fuck? The fight's not over? Are you fucking kidding me?
No, and then even Bagassarian looked up
and then that guy went from, this is what I love about him. He went from total relaxation to he got off like 10 blows in a second. Like, crazy. Oh, really? Oh, you want the fight to go on? Let me just prove it. And I think he had mercy when he went to the body. I think he hit him 2 or 3 times to the head. And he goes, dude, I could land another 7. I think that was a merciful beautiful display of violence. I just he's starting to really he impresses
man.
me, that guy.
I'm with
that guy. He got knocked off his feet, you know.
Yep.
What should I say the next time he knocks somebody out? Good Lord, praise the Lord.
Yeah.
A lot of different ways in which you could go. We got a few more minutes here with Ray Longo, and then we'll get to PETRIE and the main event challenge flyweight main event coming up this weekend. And speaking of which, the best flyweight prospect outside the UFC, Phumi Nkuta, getting it done last weekend by unanimous decision, and then gets down on his knees and begs for a spot in the UFC. Raymond, congratulations on a big win. Your thoughts on Phumi getting ever closer to that UFC doorstep?
Yeah. I mean, look at his highlight he put up. I think he showed a little bit of everything. I thought Gilbert Burns called a great fight. I don't know what to say. He's a great kid, super talented. Like he said, this is all he's got. I don't know what the fuck the quagmire is, if that's the right word.
That's a good one.
What the? I mean, like this is. I don't know. I put it this way: I leave this sport tomorrow, I'm going to go fucking code red. Code fucking red. I just don't want to do it now. But I really never saw this in my life. As long as I've been around a long time with this shit, I don't think I've ever witnessed anything like this. What do you want the kid to do? Like I'm not sure what's going on. I really don't. Nothing makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think you and I largely are aligned, looking for answers. But I touch my top lip to my bottom lip. But yeah, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But his moment will come. His moment will come.
Thank you.
All right, Ray, before we let you go, would you rather? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Tom Aspinall versus John Jones. There is a betting line on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Care to predict who is the betting favorite?
I would think I'm going to say Aspinall's a slight favorite.
Aspinall minus 142, John Jones plus 120.
Ooh. Yeah.
So,
wow.
Drake probably put a mill on John Jones already.
You don't see that too often. John Jones as an underdog, huh?
Yeah. All right, Ray. Well, hope we didn't screw up your week too much with the Tuesday curveball. What do you got going on the rest of the day? 12:30 p.m. Eastern right now on a Tuesday.
Oh, man, I'm going to eat, and then I go down. I got the next monster out of the gym, Levon, sparring at 1:30, so I'm very excited to get down there and keep this guy going. He's fighting March 22nd, along with Dylan Montello, and I think Austin Halleck's making his pro debut on the same night in a different state. But big things coming. I really love where the gym's going. The guys crushed it over the weekend. I think we went 5-1. But shout out to everybody. We got another kid, 185, Connor Cullen. It might be a mass murderer. he got back from the fight, Kenny. I actually opened his trunk and checked for dead hookers. I mean, this guy's starting to fuck. He's actually starting to scare me. But shout out to I'm going to forget everybody's name, but Freddie V. Edwin, who's the other? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. What a great fight he had against a kid. I don't even know. But everybody did great. Everybody did great.
Ray, just don't get arrested. We need you over here.
Yeah, you're gonna meet everybody soon.
I know. I can't wait.
Isn't this exciting?
I'm not opening any trunks. I'll tell you that right
Definitely
now.
Definitely not. I'll stay away from that.
I don't see anything. I don't.
Stay away from that guy.
Yeah.
Well, we wish Levon the best. Shout out to Levon.
Wait, who do we got? Cody. Who was the other guys? Oh, I thought Cody.
It's fucking terrible radio, right? Like if we give you any opportunity to shout out all these tremendous local athletes, but we're not going to.
What the fuck, man? I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I mean, do you know Levon's surname? You know his last name?
I can't.
He's the next big thing. Heaven forbid.
I can't pronounce it. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'll hold. You got any hold music for me?
Oh shit! Hold on a second.
You PETRIE sitting in the back room.
Yeah, Ryan Lopes started out the night. What a big victory for him! Shout out to Ryan, really good guy. I think I still forgot somebody. I don't know.
There's a lot of fighters.
I'm getting old.
I'm terrible with names.
I mean, we're like 12-2 in the last month. I mean, we're really.
Levon Kabalayev.
Kabalayev, yeah.
Kabalayev. That's a power name. Levon Kabalayev. Well, I wish you all the best with him today. Have a great day and a better evening. I know the gym has a ton of momentum. Steve Lee just running that train, bro.
Knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I mean, your Instagram, it's all fire, except when they're like, awesome. Ray, who do you like this weekend? Ah!
I'm not. I put an end to that.
Yeah.
I like everybody.
All right, buddy.
I want everybody to get along, John. Can't we just all get along?
Yeah, well, just next week I'm out. It's you and Ken Flo.
Wow.
Yep. So we'll see how you guys do without me. Okay, Ray?
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Hey, love you, buddy.
I'm actually looking forward to that, Ken.
I know.
Wait, where are you going? Oh,
don't worry about it, sweetheart.
Personal?
Don't worry about
it.
My man.
My brother. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks.
Closer than that. I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy.
There he is. Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik Florian Podcast. Always a fun time with Ray. And I have one thing in my notes, and we can go 3 wide with Brian Petrie here if you want to. Hunger Games, right? What's up, BP?
What's going on, boys?
Nice Poets on shirt, right?
Thank you, boys. Thank you, boys.
Right? Hunger for mixed martial arts greatness. Aaron Blanchfield is a name that I always come back to. And there's another name that we're actually going to feature on the pronunciation of the week that factors into this conversation. But Bri,
yeah,
there are certain athletes, Joaquin Buckley, right? Yeah, I mean, he definitely cares about the cheddar, but that man is of clear intention and a singular mind in 2025, trying to become the undisputed UFC welterweight champion. And I think you got to be ready to go if you're on Mansour-Gyan, and hopefully he's fighting Justin Gaethje on March 8th.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more, boys. I've heard you talking about it backstage. I mean, if you want to be the guy, you got to be the fucking guy. You got to step up sometimes. And I love guys that do. And let's see what happens. It's interesting to see. I'll be curious to who. I feel like Gaethje's going to be a little picky, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. It'll be interesting.
If Diego Lopes didn't have an undisputed title fight coming up April 12th, you can be sure his name would already be in the hat to fight.
Absolutely.
Gaethje.
Volkanovski, too. I think he'd probably be like, oh, fuck it. Yeah, I'll do Gaethje, too.
Great point.
Yeah, that guy's always down for it.
I think for Volk, maybe the preparation time might be a little bit challenging.
Sure.
But, yeah, we'll see what happens. All right. I do want to get to this pronunciation of the week if I could, because among the announcements for UFC 315, you like our new little stinger there? Thanks to the greatest producer in radio,
Cody Merrow, killing it.
So it's UFC 315, Muhammad versus Della Maddalena. But Valentina Shevchenko is defending her title against a French woman and #1 contender that night. And her first name is Manon. And there are some folks on social media that really don't like the way I pronounce her name. So, Bri, we're not even going to have you say this.
Good. Thank you.
We're just going to present this file to the masses, and then Kenny and Brian on the back end are going to tell me how they think I should pronounce it on the air. But really, I'm just trying to mimic what Manon says. So, without further delay, let's get to the pronunciation of the week.
Let's get
My name is Manon the Beast Fiorot. My name is Manon the Beast Fiorot.
It's not Manon Fiorot.
Cody, hit that file once more if you would.
My name is Manon the Beast Fiorot. My name is Manon the Beast Fiorot.
Manon the Beast. And then what do you hear? Fior.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I hear.
That's what I'm hearing.
So I don't hear Fioro. Right now,
no,
maybe she cuts it short, and maybe I would actually open up a conversation. I actually confirmed with Dricus in Australia that it wasn't Dricus or Dracus because my eye doctor is South African. He's like, you got to get everybody saying Dricus. And I was like, all right, you're right. It is indeed Dricus.
Sorry, jeez.
But when I sit down with Manon, I'm going to say there's a segment of the fan base that doesn't like hearing me say Fior. So is it Fioro or I don't know what they want to hear, but you heard it there from Manon first. It's Manon Fior. All right, fellas. Petrie, by the way, you put your whole stack on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez last week. Is that what happened?
I did not. No.
I did.
Oh, Kenny.
Yeah, buddy. I am as cold as they can be. And apparently I'm Mr. Magoo. I fall through my deck. I bang my nose on my fucking garage door because it was halfway up and I'm chasing kids. I'm Mr. Magoo now. I just hurt myself every fucking day.
Unbelievable.
It's a joke, man.
My notes were really poor here. I actually attributed that $1,000 bet to BP and not to Ken Flo. So it was Ken Flo.
Kenny Florian.
Putting his entire stack on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, never in doubt. All right.
Smart guy.
Main event challenge, UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev. We won't go too long on the prelims, but when you have a ranking we talk about you.
Sure.
And Charles Johnson has that. He's number 12 in the world. He's the underdog here at flyweight, taking on Ramazan Timirov, who is minus 130. Charles Johnson plus 110. So Timirov is 18-3. He won his UFC debut by stoppage against CJ Van Goddard last October. He's won 10 in a row, Bri. You think he takes CJ's ranking this weekend or what?
It's interesting. He throws hammers, right? He dropped for CJ Vergara like 3 times before he put him out. This guy throws. He's got that OV at the end of his name. So you think, oh, this dude's going to wrestle fuck me. No. This dude throws. And what I like this is interesting because Charles Johnson's very slick. He's very smooth. A lot of volume, a lot of head movement, a lot of different movements. He also can wrestle. He can mix it up a little bit. I'm really curious. This is going to be a live betting spot for me. The line is bouncing up and down. Got Charles Johnson at plus 110. You can find him some spots, basically even money. I like CJ here for the simple fact that I want to see what this dude who's throwing hammers does in second and third round, right? You can put anybody out in the first round. What happens in the second round, third round? We know Charles Johnson's got the gas. He's got the motor. He's got the speed and the volume. He's only been outstruck twice in his UFC career, but by barely. The guy puts it on you. And again, he's developing power a little bit. He knocked out Joshua Mann, which is very nice. And I feel like if you're loading up and Charles Johnson slips one of your shots, he can get caught. It'd be interesting, but I'm going to hold my breath until after round one. Round one is what I'm going to see, and then that's where my money's going to go.
Kempflo, Charles Johnson, the pride of St. Louis. He's got 2 nicknames on his fighter bio. The pride of St. Louis, Charles Energy Johnson. 4 straight wins, Kenny, all of them in 2024. Your thoughts on him this weekend?
Yeah, has some serious momentum right now. And, his length as well is a problem in that division. But he is a clean striker, man. But I think he does most of his best work, I think, when he's leading the dance, when he's moving forward, when he's backing you up. You're in trouble. You cannot let someone that long and strong to back you up. He's not like a one-punch knockout kind of guy, but his volume, his trickery is something to deal with. But I think this guy, is it Timirov? Is that what it is?
Timirov, yes, sir.
Timirov. He's got some serious power, and all it takes is one for this kid. Extremely powerful, and he's very aggressive. And I have a hard time believing that he's going to allow Charles Johnson to move forward for too long in this fight. Now, Brian made a great point. It's like, okay, well, what does he have past one round? I do not know. I think really the smart play is probably just playing the underdog here, but I'm not that smart. I'm going to go with Timirov here. I think he might be the real deal. He got a little wild, which is a little concerning against someone like, who's technical like Charles Johnson, but when he lands his shots, man, he has absolutely like killer instinct, goes to the body really well. Give me Timirov.
How about the thorough handicap, by the way, from our guys here on DraftKings Network early in the week? That is an early preliminary matchup at flyweight. Now we get to the featured prelim at featherweight. Chepe Machine Gun Mariscal, minus 425, taking on Ricardo Ramos, who comes back plus 330. So, Bri, real quick, Chepe, 4-0 in the UFC, wins over Trevor Peek, Jack Jenkins, Morgan Charrier, and Damon Jackson. Now draws a 13-fight UFC veteran. Ramos, pretty respectable. 8-5 in the big show, dating to that 2017 UFC debut. But Chepe north of 4-1 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Bri, talk to me.
And I'm not scared of the 4-1, John. I know I got this big thing on my nose, but goddamn it, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to fighting. Chepe's a beast. I have placed an order. I ordered 2 fighter shirts recently. Again, I got to be careful not to be the over MMA guy wearing all this shit. But I had to order a shirt of Jean Silva, which is badass. And then I found one of Chepe Mariscal off his website, or excuse me, a link from his Instagram. I got to support the machine gun. This dude, motor is unbelievable. His pre-fights in the UFC is stacked, right? He took everyone on. Like, everyone wants an easy path. I'm going to have a padded victory to get to the UFC. It took him a little bit longer because he fought them dogs, and now he's fighting the dogs in the UFC. And Ricardo Ramos, this guy has a bit of a dog in him, but he also sometimes is a little puppy. Sometimes he quits. Sometimes there's like, what's going to show up? Chepe's going to break him, right? Takedowns, clinch, work. He's stronger. He's more powerful. I think Ramos is going to throw some spinning shit. I think he'll have 1 or 2 tricks off his back, and then it's smash city for Chepe Mariscal. I like him. I like the machine gun big here, baby. Hopefully this shirt comes in by Saturday, so I'll be repping it while I'll be stacking my my casholas, because I need it. Need some wins. Give me Chepe.
Let me see that machine gun shirt next week.
Oh, yeah, you got it. I'll wear it, yeah.
Ken Flo, Chepe Mariscal, -425. Ricardo Ramos, +330. Your thoughts?
Don't love this fight for Ricardo Ramos, who has a lot of skill and he's a very dangerous guy. But I think Chepe, like Brian said, brings that motor, brings that conditioning, brings that durability as well. So even if he does eat a couple shots here and there, he's got a chin from hell. Yeah. And then after round one, man, it's probably going to be all Mariscal. And he also has a style that could potentially break Ramos, where he just kind of gives up. So I'm with you, Bri. Mariscal, I like him a lot here. I don't love the number,
it's big,
for me, but Mariscal takes this.
All right, now we get to the 6-fight main card. UFC Fight Night, Kape versus Almabayev, live on ESPN Plus from the Apex. Main card opener at welterweight. Left-handed God. Yeah, that's a 209 tattoo.
Yeah, it is.
Danny Barlow, -305. Sam Patterson, +245, Bri. Patterson's UFC debut could not have gone worse, but he responded last year in kind. 2 straight first-round submission wins. Now, though, big step up in competition against Memphis, Tennessee's Danny Left-Handed God Barlow. Bri, lead us off if you would.
I don't what is it? Oh, left-handed God, baby. Memphis, mate. Listen, I love Danny Barlow. Everyone knows that about me. Debuted on the Contender Series. Obviously, there's still so much to work with here, right? Broke his arm against Quinlan, doesn't let it heal, and then comes back and fights against Nikolai Venetetikov, the dude who pushed Austin Vanderford this weekend. I can't pronounce his name. In a very close fight, right? But this dude, he's like, I need to fight. His fucking forearm's broken. Hopefully he's healthy. And Sam Patterson, this is a guy that John Gooden, the UFC's own John Gooden, sees in the gym, loves him, has some ability. Obviously, he's coming off 2 submission wins. He jumped up to 170, which I like. 155 might have been a stretch for him, but he really hasn't fought against a guy as big as Barlow. Barlow's just as big as him. I think maybe Sam Patterson might have a little bit of a height advantage, but this still dude coming from 55, a little light in the ass here. I think he's going to struggle to try to get Barlow down. I see Barlow piecing him up. That left-handed God, baby, is going to find a spot. I'm a little worried because I don't want to overload on Barlow and get the googly eyes like I do. I could see a Jamal Hill, Paul Craig situation. Follows him to the mat, gets caught in something, right? Because Sam Patterson's very tricky, very long, has some good chokes. Barlow's got to be smart here, but he's putting out really good content this week on all his social media platforms. I can't get enough of the guy. Give me Danny Barlow.
And Instagram and social media can be a very valuable resource when it comes to seeing where athletes are. Danny Barlow is 8-0, but he did miss weight for his last fight. BP sort of outlined some of the injuries in the past. The expectations are high for Danny Barlow. We have championed his cause here. I know I'm calling the fight, Kenny. I think Sam Patterson might be live a little bit. I think he is going to go submission hunting this weekend. We'll see if he can find one. What do you make of this one? Good main card opener at 170.
Well, John, that's exactly why Patterson is a threat. You're talking about a matchup on the ground between a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Patterson versus a blue belt in Danny Barlow. Now, that doesn't always equate to the exact result you think you're going to get because for me, this fight comes down to 2 things. It comes down to discipline and it comes down to wrestling. If Danny Barlow can keep this on the feet, I think this fight is clearly his. If Sam Patterson's able to get Barlow down to the ground, maybe just once, he could finish this fight. He's really good with his positioning. He's good with his subs, especially that rear naked choke. And that's where he could take advantage. So Barlow's going to have to be very disciplined here. And he's going to have to be on point with his takedown defense. If he's able to do that, I think he'll be just fine. I think where you can make up for that potential wrestling disadvantage is with the strength. And Brian talking about the size of Barlow, I think he can make that up with that. Danny's a slick operator, man. Yes, he's athletic. Everyone loves talking about that, and that is absolutely true. But he knows how to put strikes together. He's an intelligent fighter on the feet. He knows what to throw and when. I like Danny Barlow here. Don't love the number, but I like Barlow.
I just love listening to you guys handicap here on the Main Event Challenge. Next main card matchup at featherweight, William Gomez. -218 taking on Hyder Emil, who is +180. Gomez coming off a split win over Joe Anderson Brito. That pushed him to 4-0 in the UFC. Don't look now, but now he faces the undefeated Hurricane, Hyder Emil. He trains Brian under Gilbert Melendez, El Nino Training Center, San Francisco, California, USA. What do you make of the 45ers here, BP? Gomez or Emil for you?
I mean, Gomez is a sneaky 4-0, right? And he has a win over Joannes Brito, who he tamed that buzzsaw, right? And I know it's a split decision win. You can go either way. But people always fight at Gomez's pace. He has a very slow, methodical pace, very technical, really good kicks, and unbelievable takedown offense. Emil is a hurricane. He's a buzzsaw. He comes at you, right? I don't think he has the biggest power in the world, even though he's got 2 knockouts in the UFC. The guy puts a pressure on you and doesn't take a step backwards. That's how he's going to win this fight. I'm tired of picking all favorites here. I'm tired of giving y'all chalk. Okay, that's not me. I'm taking the dog in Emil here. You know, I think he's got a great camp with Melendez there, Gilbert Melendez. Those guys all fight similar. This guy's kind of a step above that. He's the new generation. He's good at everything. Cardio on point, great chin. And I think he has to take this fight to Gomez. He cannot let the slow pace, a 30-42 striking fest, because he'll lose. Emil's got to go out there and got to go crazy. Plus 180. I like the number. Dog me.
Nicely done. Ken Flo, Gomez or Emil for you, kid?
Yeah, Emil definitely is a hurricane out there. I think that Gomez, though, has proved time and time again that he has the discipline, he has the game plan, he has the skills to get it done. And against a guy with not a whole lot of fights in the UFC, while it's a promising career, I think, for Haider Emil, I think that Gomez is just going to be a little bit too technical and a little bit too disciplined for him, where he'll kind of out-decision him. So give me Gomez.
Neil Young, you are like a hurricane. No? All right. At heavyweight, UFC debut has arrived for Portugal's Mario Pinto, a whopping minus 380 betting favorite here against Austin Lane. There's got to be a good nickname when your last name is Lane. Austin Lane.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not very nice. Austin, stay in your lane can be had at plus 300. No, there's got to be like Austin Blackberry Lane or something. I mean, it's a fucking street name. It could work with almost anything, you know, Austin Strawberry Lane.
Yeah, it could work with anything.
So Austin Lane can be had at plus 300, folks, if you're interested on DraftKings Sportsbook. Pinto, though, 9-0. He had a knockout on the Contender Series Bry last October. Trains out of Fight Zone in London, England. What do you have for us on the heavyweights, Bry?
Yeah, so, you know, Austin Lane, this guy, you know, he's been knocked back down. He's got up, knocked back down. He's got up. He went against the Spain last time out and got outstruck, but landed some takedowns in a very lackluster performance. Athletic, played in the NFL. We all know his backstory. I just don't know what kind of fighter he is or wants to be. Does he want to be a striker? Does he want to be a grappler? I think he's caught in the middle. And I think Pinto, big, long, tall guy with some really good striking, really long range weapons to keep you on the end of your punches. I think he's going to find Lane's chin, which has been proven at heavyweight, hasn't been the best. I like Pinto by knockout here. I mean, it's a high number for a debut fighter. I get that. A lot of these lines are going to be kind of spread out. I understand that Vegas is sharp nowadays. But yeah, I like Pinto here. Probably by first round knockout as well as how I'll play it. Maybe curb that number a little bit of minus 380. Maybe we'll get him close to plus money.
Austin Mulberry Lane. Kenny, that's the nursery rhyme. The Muffin Man lives on fucking Mulberry Lane. Austin Mulberry Lane, he's 37, coming off his first UFC win against now, I think, former UFC fighter Robelis Despain. Odds makers not expectant that we'll get much out of Austin Lane this weekend. Kenny, what do you think?
Mario Pinto's a very talented guy. From the fights that I saw, he is definitely good on the feet. He's technical, seems very, very composed as well. Smart fighter. Knows how to nullify things on the ground as well. Saw a couple fights where the guy was trying to just bum rush him from the get-go. And I think that's Austin Lane's best bet, is to just, you know, throw a flurry of punches from the get-go and see if he can make it a chaotic and sloppy fight. Because Mario Pinto likes a nice, slow-paced, technical fight, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So I think Pinto's the more technical guy. I don't see him kind of caving to the pressure if Austin Lane does bring that. Always have to worry about someone who has that kind of physicality like Austin Lane. But I think Pinto's kind of a big favorite for a reason, even though it's his debut. Give me Mario Pinto.
All right, feature bout now at lightweight, boys. Esteban Ribovics, minus 258, taking on Nasrat Hakparast, who is plus 210. So Ribovics back on the proving ground, Bry, after that unbelievable fight of the year with Daniel Zellhuber. That was at Sphere last September. I do think that fight ends up in the UFC Hall of Fame one day. I really do. Part of that will be determined as to how these two athletes do, you know, in their respective UFC careers, you know. But I think if either one of them, Ribovics or Zellhuber, realizes success, that fight ends up in the Hall of Fame. But more importantly, Bry, now for Ribovics, spinning it forward, he faces Hakparast, another guy really on the cusp of the lightweight top 15. Who do you think prevails here?
Love this fight. Esteban Ribovics, El Gringo.
Yeah.
He's sneakily becoming one of the guys I really want to watch. Every time he's on, it's must-see TV for me. I love the card placement. I love the fight because Hapras has had 13 UFC fights. He's only landed 3 takedowns. This dude ain't going for takedowns. He's a volume guy. He likes to strike. Tricky little southpaw. Not the biggest power in the world, which is, I think, what you're going to need against Ribovics, who's got a fucking chin, boys. This dude can take some shots. He can deliver shots. Not the most technical guy in the world when he's throwing strikes, but he lands a head kick, a body kick. You feel it. He lands hands. You feel it. Zellhuber, listen, that dude went out there at Noche, and that was the fight of his life in front of the people, you know what I mean? The Mexican people, the Mexican fans, and the event that it was. And Zellhuber did everything in his power to stay in that fight. And he got knocked around by Ribovics, who I think has just that extra gear of power. And even when he's tired, he's throwing. I like Ribovics here. The number's a little high for me. This isn't something I'm going to throw in a parlay or whatever. This is probably something I'm going to feel out come Saturday. See if we can cut that line a little bit. But after that performance at Noche, I can understand why he's, got the big number. He's the hot hand right now. Give me Ribovics probably by decision. I like the over, if anything, because Hasbratz has got a chin on him. But yeah, give me El Gringo.
Kenny Hapras, 9-4 in the UFC, has not fought since a controversial split decision win over Jared Gordon. That was last June in Saudi Arabia. Last man to beat him was King Green all the way back in 2022. Ribovics on the other side, the slightly younger man, is 28. He's won 3 in a row. He actually started training when he was 12 after his father passed away. Tremendous story. Who do you think emerges here among the 155ers, Ken Flo?
Well, Hapras will entertain a brawl at times, and I think that would be a very poor decision against someone like Ribovics, who more than proved himself in that last fight against Zellhuber. And I have a hard time believing that if Zellhuber, with all the strikes that he landed and as big as he is, if he couldn't finish Ribovics, I have a hard time believing that Hapras is going to be able to do that. So I'm on the side of Ribovics here. I think Hapras is a fun fighter to watch. I think this will be a very entertaining fight. But give me Ribovics.
All right, somewhat surprising co-main event slot here for this middleweight matchup. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Julian Marquez, minus 155, Cody Brundage, plus 130. Brundage, winless spanning his last 2, Bryce. Submission loss to Bo Nickel at UFC 300, then the no contest from the illegal elbows sustained against Abdul Razak El Hassan. On the other side, Marquez, must-see TV when he fights, but he hasn't won a fight since submitting Sam Alvey 4 years ago in 2021. He replaces Ryan Loder here this weekend. Any feel BP on the co-main event?
I'm a nice guy. I try to be, I'm team UFC. I don't know what this is doing co-main event. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know what this, I'm no disrespect to the fighters, but Julian Marquez he's 9-5, hasn't won a fight since 2021, hasn't won a fight since he completely blew it with Miley Cyrus, by the way, if people remember those days. He does have a win over a current UFC fighter on the roster. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, getting finished in all 3. And then you got Brundage, who is a work in progress, but sometimes he doesn't show up. It's really weird. He's so frustrating to bet on, but he's training with Dustin Jacoby. He's got some power. He knocked out Shevchenko Gore. There's something there, and I think Marquez, unfortunately, his chin might be gone. I think this might be his last hurrah in the UFC, and I like Brundage as a dog money here. I was surprised this is dog money. I thought we'd get an even pick'em, because even after the fact that Julian Marquez is a little bit shop-worn, his wrestling's not all that great, and Brundage does have some good wrestling when he wants to use it offensively, decent striking, decent submissions, comes from a great camp, trained with the right people. Let's just see if he shows up. Give me the dog Brundage. I'm not running to the window, Johnny. Yeah. But give me Brundage.
Yeah, Kenny, any fighter can get cut off a loss, right? There are a lot of things that go into it. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I believe, was just let go, 1-1 over his last 2. But not every day you have a co-main event in which potentially both guys could lose their jobs with an L. Any thoughts for us on Marquez and Brundage, Ken Flo?
I think Marquez is really tough. He's fallen on some bad luck. I think this is another tough fight for him. Cody Brundage, I think he's got better skills than Julian Marquez overall, but how he shows up isn't always consistent. And there's sometimes you see these inspired performances from Brundage, and other times they're kind of listless. And I don't know. He needs this one just like Marquez needs it. And I think for Brundage, I like him in this underdog spot. I especially like the fact that he could switch things up and maybe put Marquez on his back. So give me Brundage.
All right, right back to Ken Flo on the main event, a flyweight title eliminator between the number 6 ranked contender Manel Kape and number 8 Asu Almabayev. Kape minus 238. Almabayev is plus 195. A little background for you boys. Kape has won 5 of his last 6, the only loss in that span, coming in that sort of grudge match against Muhammad Mokaev. Last win for Manel Kape was just outstanding. December 14th, the stoppage of Bruno Silva was spectacular. And now he could find himself, Ken Flo, in a title fight if he can finish Asu Almabayev this weekend. Lead us off on the main event, please, good sir.
Not too many flyweights that when they're on that night are going to look as good as Manel Kape and are going to be as dangerous as Manel Kape. He does certain things that it looks like it's straight out of the Matrix. His head movement, his ability to counter, his ability to make reads, his versatility, the amount of weapons that he can throw at you, even his defense with his footwork and how he moves away from you. It's just all very pretty to watch. Almabayev is a very tough matchup for him, though, because not only is he a fast striker and a pressure style of fighter, but he also has the takedown game in his favor as well. So, and I think this is a great preparatory fight for Kape if he does want to fight someone like Pantoja. I'm not saying Almabayev can put it all together like someone like Pantoja, or is as he's not even close as far as submissions to Pantoja's submission threat, but it's a style that integrates good striking with good takedown ability. And I think Manel Kape, this is his time to prove that he is the dude. I think he is the dude. I think he is that dangerous. I think it would be all the more impressive if he's able to get a late round stoppage in this one. Give me Manel Kape. I think he's just way too dangerous for Almabayev at this point. You know, Almabayev hasn't had a ton of fights, but I do think he has a promising career ahead of him. But give me Manel Kape.
And that breakdown got me excited to go wheels up to Vegas here on Thursday. Almabayev, the former M1 global champion, 4-0 in the UFC. He's won 17 straight overall. That's hard to do in mixed martial arts. 9 career wins by submission for the native of Kazakhstan. Certainly the lesser talked about party in this main event. How do you see it playing out, BP?
Yeah, I mean, you guys got to check the tapes. I mean, you know, I've been on Kape for a while. Pull the receipts, boys. The Anik Florian listeners, pull the receipts. I think this dude's going to fight for the title. I think this dude's going to hold the title. Here's my big gripe, right, is when I watch him, is when he fights grapplers, who he's fighting this weekend, he shuts down. The Pantoja fight, before Pantoja became the champion, shut down. He's afraid of the takedown. Mokaev fight, he got outstruck by Muhammad Mokaev because he's afraid of the takedown. Although his hips and his explosion and his takedown defense is really good, not on top of that, it's really good at him getting up. You know, he got up from Mokaev pretty well, even when Mokaev was grabbing his shorts, right? Like, this dude needs to believe in himself way more than he does. I know he's a confident guy, and he's got power for days, probably the best power at 125, and I like him in this spot as well, but I'm a little concerned with Almabayev's grappling in here. But I can't be a wishy-washy bitch. I got to put my money where my mouth is, so I'm going to go Manel Kape. Got to be confident with it because I got to get off this snide here, bub. I am icy cold, but give me Manel Kape, Starboy. By the way, has he ever came out to the Starboy song by the weekend? Because if not, that's a giant miss. Yeah, because that's a great song, and that's a great nickname. He needs to come out to that.
Dude, I love the weekend. I love it.
So good.
All right. Our final act today, and thanks to everybody going 90 minutes strong here live on YouTube on a Tuesday. It is time for Place Your Bets, presented by JohnAnik.com, where you can support the show with our exclusive Anik and Florian podcast and One More Sleep apparel and merchandise. Use code One More Sleep for your discount, also available at KennyFlorian.com. And joining us today, representing Woolwich, Southeast London, Kevin Scott, longtime listener and viewer of the program. K. Scott, good to see you, brother. How we doing?
Yo, gentlemen, thank you so much, man. This is incredible. Being, just listen to the show for so long, and I get to sit with, Big Gun. Big Gun dropping those gems every week, man. Then you've got the GOAT, Ken Flo, right? The UFC throat, Anik himself. It's like, this is incredible. This is incredible.
Well, we appreciate you. So what are your betting habits like, and what are your MMA and UFC watching habits like?
Oh, man. Well, betting-wise, I'm not very good at betting. So I'm more like, I like predicting, you know what I mean? So I'll throw because I used to do my own like MMA podcast, Chin Check. And I used to throw out my predictions for, but yeah, I mean, I was just like, I don't know if I'm putting any cheddar down.
I think Kenny and I, that's a good name, Chin Check. I think Kenny and I should have named this like the Club and Sub podcast or something.
Ooh,
the Anik Florian Podcast is just okay. All right, so this exercise essentially gives you $1,000 to spread across this fight card however you want. And before I do that, I just have to ask you, in Southeast London, are you staying up and watching all of these fight cards live in the middle of the night? Do you watch them the next day? What is your viewing experience like?
Oh man, yeah, I watch a lot of them live. You know what I mean? Because I'm a bit of a night owl, so you know, 3 a.m. for a main card, that's like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends, right? Because if it's a date night, it's hard to be like, yo, I'm gonna watch this UFC fight. So you know, then it's watching the next day. But yeah, I try and watch as much live as I can, you know.
Well, we appreciate your service at 3 a.m. and to everyone in the great nation of England and across the United Kingdom. All right, Kev. So UFC Fight Night Kape versus Almabayev. We're giving you $1,000. Who do you like this weekend?
Man, like there are some incredible fights on this card, and like to do the research was mad fun because you get to check out a lot of past fights that you, for whatever reason, haven't had a chance to go back to. You know what I mean? So that was so much fun. It's tricky as well. There's some tricky fights to pick, right? Because when we got Haider Amir against William Gomez, right? Both are very talented. Haider throws those combinations, that relentless pressure coming forward. But then Gomez has that, takedown and sub element. And it's just like, there's, I think Brian said, he slows down a fight.
Yeah, he does.
Slows down a fight. So it's kind of like, will Haider be able to keep that pressure, or will Gomez be able to slow it down and take him down? Because even in Haider's last fight, he was getting touched, and Gomez has a great jab. So I was going back and forth, but I'm dropping 100 on Gomez.
All right, 100 on Gomez. All right, you got $900 left, my man. Let's rifle through some of these. Who else you like?
Okay, Danny Barlow, I'm going 100 because Sam Patterson keeps that chin high.
Yeah. All right, so you like Danny Barlow. Anybody else?
Charles Johnson, 100.
Okay.
Chepi Mariscal, I'm going too large.
Too large, okay.
I am going 50 on Mario Pinto.
Okay.
I'm doing Esteban Ribovic 200.
200 on El Gringo.
Now, this one, it wasn't there, but I kind of feel Luana Carolina.
Yep.
I like, you know what I mean? She's been putting a little surge together. So I'm going 50 on Carolina.
Okay.
And then, I mean, listening to the breakdowns on the main event, but I'm doing 200 on Almabayev.
Ooh, wow.
Because, right, I find he's hard to hit. He's got an active top game, right? He's really good in the scramble. And I think when Kape is on, like that last fight, he is. But sometimes he's taking too many photos. Right? So yeah. I'm feeling that it could be Almabayev.
It's a nice handicap. So 200 on Asu Almabayev, $50 on Luana Carolina, $100 on William Gomez, $100 on Danny Barlow, $200 on Chepe Mariscal, 100 on Charles Johnson, 50 on Mario Pinto, and 200 on Esteban Ribovic. Ken Flo had $1,000 on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, last week. You've been dominating. You'll enjoy when we update the standings, even if it's not until March. Who do you have for us this weekend, Ken Flo? You got $1K to spend.
Am I going to do this again? Am I going to just take $1,000 and put it on one guy? Yeah, I am. I'm going to put it on Ribovix. I'm putting $1,000 on Ribovix. I like this fight. Perhaps not as strongly as I did Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, but I think this is a good matchup for him.
And I promise we won't tell Firas Zahabi about that. All right. Brian Petrie, you will have the final word. $1,000, kid.
Yeah, listen, I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm now in 4,700 and Kenny Florian's got a mustache, okay? Kevin painted the board. I'm going 1,000 on Shepe, the machine gun, baby. Listen, it's only a couple $100 win, but I need it. I need to trim this bucket. I'd put $10,000 if I could. John, you want to let me do 10,000? I'll do 10,000. We'll keep it to 1,000, boys. I need a win. I need some dubs.
Right. Just chasing that green stripe. I get it. All right, Kevin Scott, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for supporting the program. Great job, and we'll see how you do next week. If you're in the black, you go on a stack of people that might be invited back. So we appreciate you, sir, very much.
Outstanding. Thank you for the time, gentlemen. Have a good one.
You too, my brother. And Brian Petrie, you can check him out further on the MMA Takes podcast, of course, later this week. We got to get on out of here. Thanks to everybody for joining us live. We will be back with a recap next week. I will be live in Las Vegas, and then we will spin it forward for UFC 313. Might even have some live Sunday content for you after UFC 313, shortly after the pay-per-view as well. Thank you to our producer, Cody Merrow. Thanks to Longo and Petrie and Kevin Scott. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. We will talk to you in less than a week. Until then, yo later.
I love this shit.